Tammy lifted up in our prayers because it's just not the same without her. She's still in critical condition in the hospital. There is a in the lung, a clot in the lung. And Lisa, I believe you have more information.
Yeah, she's still in the ICU in the hospital. She's requesting prayers from everyone. I've told her that we're all praying for her. We're all rooting for her, just to have some encouragement for her because she's really down right now. And I've told her it's just not the same without her. We really miss her in the chat. Just her friendly welcomes to everyone, and just keeping all the chat friendly and happy and really uplifting. She does such a great job at that, and she's a huge part of the ministry. So, so continue to pray for Tammy. Yeah, it's really not.
Yeah, and please, people in the comments on YouTube, please send her messages in there.
Yes.
And
she's reading. She's not there. She's not able to be there for the live streams. I guess she's got a lot of testing going on, and she's sleeping a lot too with the medication. So, but she does go through it afterwards. So if you are in the chat and live stream, please even now put some messages for Tammy in there. She'll read it.
Yeah, great. And also let everybody know, I just wanted that first and foremost because it's just calling out the Father, please. We need more precious, sweet souls like her. But we are reading Legends of the Jews. We're continuing on with that. And Tammy, I believe you had information regarding your channel.
Oh, me, Lisa. It's okay, Sharon. Yes, we are having our Sabbath week, so there is no Hebrew class after Digital Readers Club, but we will continue on next week. We have some special guests presenting and for next weekend, but not this Saturday. And we'll put some information up about our special guests, and it's going to be a great show. It's actually Zach Lewis will be back, and he did a wonderful job a couple weeks ago, and he's going to be discussing with Isaac this week because he was sharing some of his history and the way that he came to be close to the Most High God, and his journey was very similar to my son Isaac's. So they'll be sharing their stories, and so I think it's going to be a great class and more wonderful research from Zach coming out next Saturday. But as of today, we have the day off. Noble and I are still traveling. We are still working on some projects here in Wisconsin. And we just appreciate all of your prayers for us as well. Thank you so much for your prayers for Noble. He's all better. And our luggage has arrived, praise God. So we'll continue to be here for another few weeks, and then we'll be back, I think, middle of March. So thank you guys.
You're so closer, and yet still so far.
I know. Seems like we're still just as far, but just colder. That's the only difference.
How far are you from Detroit?
So what is that?
How far are you from Detroit?
I'm not even sure. Brick, how far is it from Wisconsin to Detroit?
Let's see, probably 8. It's 8 hours to Chicago, and you guys are just northwest of where. Right.
Okay. Yeah, I really don't know. I haven't ever really driven around this area, but we're kind of in central Wisconsin, so we're not close to the lakes or anything. To the Great Lakes. Yeah.
Yeah. You're close to Fargo over there.
Okay. And that's the whole area. Oh, and there's Clark. Hey, Clark.
Yeah.
Hey, you guys. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Thank you for your prayers, Clark. For Noble's
for sure.
Yeah.
And Zen, welcome.
And Zen.
Hey, hello.
Hey, Zen.
How are you?
Well,
Good.
and you,
Hey,
brother?
we're good. Good to see you, Zen.
Good to be with everyone.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Thanks.
How are you doing?
All right.
Good.
Yeah. How's everybody?
We're live, Father.
staying warm, trying to stay warm. It snowed yesterday, and we hadn't seen snow for years, so that was wonderful.
Oh my goodness. How shocking.
Yeah, so that was nice. Thank you for your prayers. You're doing much better. And you had a wonderful show. I missed it live, but I went back and listened with Noel Hadley. That was a great show, Zen.
Oh, thanks.
I know I've been so many shows the past couple of weeks. I'm gonna have a whole bunch to listen to when I go back to Tulsa for 10.
Right? Yeah. I'm behind as well, so it's okay.
I know.
6 hours a week. That's 5 hours a week. That's a lot to maintain.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Thank you, because I mean that's a lot of dedication on your part.
Oh, thanks.
We
Trying
appreciate
to
it.
serve. Best I
That you
can.
do. You and Rob Skiba, I think you guys had the most extensive libraries of information and gathering of all this information.
Well, we both read and did a lot of research.
Okay. I'm just grateful for you providing it to everyone.
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate it.
Clark, how are your eyes?
Oh, my eyes are, I had an interesting, I'm undergoing an interesting thing. My eyes are starting to clear up with the addition of certain salts that I just
Wow.
dissolve and drink. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Someone put out some information my oldest daughter got a hold of, and so she bought some of their product. It's called LMNT electrolyte drink mix.
Oh, yeah, I've heard about that.
Have you? Did you hear good things, brother?
Yeah, the Keto Twins, they have a sponsor for that.
Oh, cool. Yeah, so this is like my third or fourth day doing it, and I have to say that it's just this little packet of 3 different salts,
Right.
and you drink it, so it's like salty flavored water, and it's almost instantly, you guys, after
Really?
drinking. Yeah,
What is
it
it?
wasn't even. It's
I
called.
just
It's
Googled it now. I'm putting the
yeah,
link in the
yeah,
Discord.
yeah. Um, it has natural flavors in it. It has stuff we don't really agree on. Uh, you want to look at that, Lisa,
What
but
is just psychotropic mushrooms in it?
the most
Oh, I'm
important
in.
ingredient. uh, it does have it's citric acid, magnesium malate, potassium chloride. Um,
Oh, the fluoride.
The advertisement says no dodgy ingredients.
yeah,
Oh, gee.
the only thing dodgy is the natural flavors. But
Yeah.
I had a problem with my eyes where they were super goopy and swelling, and I couldn't see that well out of them. And they like almost immediately responded upon uptaking my salt level. So I'm gonna hang with this for a little while.
Right on.
Yeah, it's doing
Adrian
me.
says it's Keto Twins real fat burners.
Adrian, Adrian's putting this in the chat.
Is it?
Interesting.
Nice.
Yeah, it is. Well, what do they tell us? Less salt, less salt, less salt, right?
Yes, yes.
And we
Oh,
know
yeah, it's the opposite.
it's always the opposite. And so I'm
Right.
thinking, I heard a conversation. I can't remember if it was Zen or Rob or um, somebody, but this exact opposite things is the things that are healthy is what they virtually taking out of our agricultural supply, right?
Yeah.
I'm wondering if this is some of that.
Yeah. Actually,
Yeah.
I wrote I don't know how many of you received the Sacred Word Publishing newsletter, but I actually did a little article on the different types of salts. And Nathan Reynolds actually has some good information on that too. But we ordered some Celtic sea salt maybe 6 months ago, and Noble and I started doing that several times a day. And then Nathan Reynolds was promoting one that has even more mineral content, and that's the Baja sea salt, I think it is.
Yeah.
So we ordered like 5 pounds of that. And so
Yeah.
we each have a little each have a little bag that we carry around with us and do our little salt dosing.
Sowing your seed.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's pretty
What?
C9
good.
new one. Because he was trying to find that one, but they charge more and they use the exact same thing, and you can get a huge bag for like $7 at Tractor Supply or something, and it's the exact same thing, except
Mm,
it's packaged for the animals or for agriculture.
wow.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I'll take the ivermectin, please.
Yeah.
Right.
And the DMSO. The DMSO
Yeah.
also.
Yeah. Isn't that funny? So funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. But, excuse me.
What's it, Lisa? What's the name of that salt you were talking about?
It's called Baja. It's Baja sea salt or something like, or Baja mineral salt.
Oh,
We got ours.
Baja.
Yeah,
Okay.
we were doing the Celtic salt, but this one even has more. I think like 10 more minerals or something than the Celtic, and
Uh-huh.
it's less expensive too, and you can get
Okay.
it in very large amounts. I mean, I don't condone constantly shopping on Amazon, but that was the place I found where it was the best deal. So.
Right.
Do you
Right.
want to know the good thing about your condition right now, Lisa? Is that you are probably about 5 miles away from a Tractor Supply store.
Oh, yes, I'm sure we are. And we passed several of those today when we were driving around.
Brimming,
Yeah.
they're brimming with the salt for cheap.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I remember when when we were in Israel like 10 years ago, and we were by the Dead Sea, and they have salt, huge, like mountains of salt. They have salt factories. And when you check into the hotel room in Eilat, which used to be Ezion Geber at the southern tip of Israel, they give you 2 packs in your room instead of giving you like, all the soaps and everything you get in hotels. They give you 1 pound of their natural salt and 1 pound of mud. You go,
Nice.
yeah, it's kind of interesting. Is you put the mud all over you, you go soak in the salt water, and a lot of
That's
people
awesome.
healing. It's a very healing, therapeutical thing.
Right.
Yeah, so it's very interesting. But that's what I remember about Eilat: salt and mud.
Oh man.
Yeah. So
And Lot's
yeah.
wife.
Yes, yes. There actually was a pillar that we drove by, and I mean, our tour guide said that could be Lot's wife, and if that was Lot's wife, I would definitely say either some Nephilim type of influence because it was huge. So,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, like apparently they have one that's kind of that some people say could be Lot's wife on the Israel side, and there's another one, we didn't see this one, on the Jordan side of the Dead Sea. So I'm not sure exactly where that would have been, but there's 2 candidates for sure.
So, okay, does someone want to pray us in?
Sure, I can do that if it's
Thank
okay.
you,
Unless
Lord.
somebody
Yes,
else.
please.
Okay, let's pray. Father, we are grateful to join today, and we're just humbled by you being so awesome and in control. And so we just love to be together, and we love you, and we ask, Father, that you would Keep us bound tightly with the cords of love and forgiveness, and help us sharpen each other, and always remember you and have the highest regard for you in our hearts and minds as we gather together, as we study together, and as we move forward. Bless everyone in chat and everyone listening. And we ask all this in the name of your blessed Messiah, who shed his blood for us. Amen.
Amen.
Okay. We're starting. Do you know, Brooke?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Also, Noah and his sons, thinking that death was nigh, broke into tears. Noah prayed to God, O Lord, help us, for we are not able to bear the evil that encompasses us. The billow surges about us, the streams of destruction make us afraid, and death stares us in the face. Oh, hear our prayers, deliver us, incline thyself unto us, and be gracious unto us, redeem us, and save us. The flood was produced by a union of the male waters which are above the firmament and the female waters issuing from the earth. The upper waters rushed through the space left when God removed two stars out of the constellation Pleiades. Afterwards, to put a stop to the flood, God had to transfer two stars from the constellation of the Bear, the constellation of Pleiades. That is why the Bear runs after Pleiades. She wants her two children back. But they will be restored to her only in the future world. There were other changes amongst the celestial spheres during the year of the flood. All the time it lasted, the sun, the moon shed no light. Once Noah was called by his name, the resting one. For in his life, the sun and the moon resided. The ark was illuminated by a precious stone, the light of which was more brilliant than the night than by the day, so enabling Noah to distinguish between day and night. Pass.
The duration of the flood was a whole year. It began on the 17th day of Heshwan, and the rain continued for 40 days until the 27th of Kislev. The punishment corresponded to the crime of the sinful generation. They had led immoral lives and begotten bastard children whose embryonic state lasted 40 days. From the 27th of Kislev until the 1st of Siwan, a period of 150 days, the water stood at one and the same height, 15 ells above the earth. During that time, all the wicked were destroyed, each one receiving the punishment due to him. Cain was among those that perished, and thus the death of Abel was avenged. So powerful were the waters in working havoc that the corpse of Adam was not spared in its grave. On the 1st of Siwan, the waters began to abate, a quarter of an ell a day. And at the end of 60 days, on the 10th of Ab, on the 10th day of Ab, the summits of the mountains showed themselves. But many days before, on the 10th of Tammuz, Noah had sent forth the raven, and a week later the dove. On the first of her three sallies, repeated at intervals of a week, it took from the 1st of Ab until the 1st of Tishri for the waters to subside wholly from the face of the earth. Even then, the soil was so miry that the dwellers in the ark had to remain within until the 27th day of Heshwan, completing a full sun year, consisting of 12 moons and 11 days. Pass.
Noah had experienced difficulty all along in ascertaining the state of the waters. When he desired to dispatch the raven, the bird said, "The Lord thy master hates me, and thou dost hate me too. Thy master hates me, for he bade thee take 7 pairs of the clean animals into the ark, and but 2 pairs of the unclean animals, to which I belong. Thou hatest me, for thou dost not choose as a messenger a bird of one of the kinds of which there are 7 pairs in the ark, but thou sendest me, and of my kind there is but 1 pair. Suppose now I should perish by reason of heat or cold. Would not the world be poorer by a whole species of animals? Or can it be that thou hast cast a lustful eye upon my mate, and desirest to rid myself of me?" Whereunto Noah made answer and said, "Wretch, I must live apart from my own wife in the ark. How much less would such thoughts occur to my mind as thou imputest to do?" The raven's errand had no success, for when he saw the body of a dead man, he set to work to devour it, and did not execute the orders given to him by Noah. Thereupon the dove was sent out. Toward evening she returned with an olive leaf in her bill, plucked upon the Mount of Olives at Jerusalem, for the Holy Land had not been ravaged by the deluge. As she plucked it, she said to God, "O Lord of the world, let my food be as bitter as the olive, but do thou give it to me from thy hand, rather than it should be sweet, and I be delivered into the power of men." Pass.
Noah leaves the ark. Though the earth assumed its old form at the end of the year of punishment, Noah did not abandon the ark until he received the command of God to leave it. He said to himself, "As I entered the ark at the bidding of God, so I will leave it only at his bidding." Yet when God bade Noah go out of the ark, he refused, because he feared that after he had lived upon the dry land for some time and begotten children, God would bring another flood. He therefore would not leave the ark until God swore he would never visit the earth with a flood again. When he stepped out from the ark into the open, he began to weep bitterly at the sight of the enormous ravages wrought by the flood. And he said to God, "O Lord of the world, thou called the merciful, and thou shouldst have had mercy upon thy creatures." God answered and said, "O thou foolish shepherd, now thou speakest to me. Thou didst not when I addressed kind words to thee, saying, I saw thee as a righteous man and perfect in thy generation, and I will bring the flood upon the earth to destroy all flesh. Make an ark for thyself of gopher wood. Thus spake I to thee, telling thee all these circumstances, that thou mightest entreat mercy for the earth. But thou, as soon as thou didst hear that thou would be rescued in the ark, thou did not concern thyself about the ruin that would strike the earth. Thou did build an ark for thyself, in which thou wast saved. Now that the earth is wasted, thou opens thy mouth to supplicate and pray." Noah realized that he had been guilty of folly. To propitiate God and acknowledge his sin, he brought a sacrifice. God accepted the offering with favor, whence he is called by his name Noah. The sacrifice was not offered by Noah with his own hands. The priestly services connected with it were performed by his son Shem. There was a reason for this. One day in the ark, Noah forgot to give his ration to the lion, and the hungry beast struck him so violent a blow with his paw that he was lame forever. And having a bodily defect, he was not permitted to do the offices of a priest. The sacrifices consisted of an ox, a sheep, a goat, 2 turtle doves, and 2 young pigeons. Noah had chosen these kinds because he supposed they were appointed for sacrifices, seeing that God had commanded him to take 7 pairs of them into the ark with him. The altar was erected in the same place on which Adam and Cain and Abel had brought their sacrifices, and on which later the altar was to be in the sanctuary at Jerusalem. Pass.
After the sacrifice was completed, God blessed Noah and his sons. He made them to be rulers of the world, as Adam had been, and he gave them a command, saying, "Be fruitful and multiply upon the earth." For during their sojourn in the ark, the 2 sexes of men and animals alike had lived apart from each other, because while a public calamity rages continuance, it becoming even to those who are left unscathed, this law of conduct had been violated by none in the ark except by Ham, by the dog, and by the raven. They all received a punishment. Ham's was that his descendants were men of dark-hued skin. As a token that he would destroy the earth no more, God set his bow in the cloud. Even if men should be steeped in sin again, the bow proclaims to them that their sins will cause no harm to the world. Times came in the course of the ages when men were pious enough not to have to live in dread of punishment. In such times the bow was not visible. God accorded permission to Noah and his descendants to use the flesh of animals for food, which had been forbidden from the time of Adam until then. But they were to abstain from the use of blood. He ordained that 7 Noachian laws, that the observance of which is incumbent upon all men, not upon Israel alone. God enjoyed particularly the command against the shedding of human blood. Whoso would shed man's blood, his blood would be shed. Even if human judges let the guilty man go free, his punishment would overtake him. He would die in an unnatural death, such as he had inflicted upon his fellow man. Yea, even the beasts that slew men, even of them would the life of men be required. Pass.
Curse of drunkenness. Noah lost his epithet, the pious, when he began to occupy himself with the growing of the vine. He became a man of the ground, and his first attempt to produce wine and the simple time produced the first drink to excess. The first to utter curses upon his associates, and the first to introduce slavery. This is the way it all came about. Noah found the vine which Adam had taken with him from paradise. When he was driven forth, he tasted the grapes upon it, and finding them palatable, he resolved to plant the vine and tend it. On the self same day on which he planted it, it bore fruit. He put it in the wine press, drew off the juice, drank it, and became drunk, and was dishonored all on one day. His assistant in the work of cultivating the vine was Satan, who had happened along that very moment when he was engaged in planting the slip he had found. Satan asked him, "What is it thou art planting here?" Noah, "A vineyard." Satan, "And what may be the qualities of what it produces, Noah. The fruit it bears is sweet, to be dry or moist. It yields wine that rejoiceth the heart of man. Satan, let us go into a partnership in this business of planting a vineyard. Noah agreed. Pass.
Satan thereupon slaughtered a lamb, and then in succession a lion, a pig, and a monkey. The blood of each as it was killed he made to flow under the vine. Thus he conveyed to Noah what the qualities of the wine are. Before man drinks of it, he is innocent as a lamb. If he drinks of it moderately, he feels as strong as a lion. If he drinks more of it than he can bear, he resembles the pig. And if he drinks to the point of intoxication, then he behaves like a monkey. He dances around, sings, talks obscenely, and knows not what he is doing. This deterred Noah no more than did the example of Adam, whose fall had also been due to the wine. For the forbidden fruit had been the grape with which he had made himself drunk. In his drunken condition, Noah betook himself to the tent of his wife. His son Ham saw him there, and he told his brothers what he had noticed, and said, "The first man had but two sons, and one slew the other. This man Noah has three sons, yet he desires to beget a fourth besides." Nor did Ham rest satisfied with these disrespectful words against his father. He added to this sin of irreverence with still greater outrage of attempting to perform an operation upon his father designed to prevent procreation. When Noah awoke from his wine and became sober, he pronounced a curse upon Ham in the person of his youngest son Canaan. To Ham himself he could do no harm, for God had conferred a blessing upon Noah and his three sons as they departed from the ark. Therefore he put the curse upon the last born son of the son that had prevented him from begetting a younger son than the three he had. The descendants of Ham through Canaan, therefore, have red eyes, because Ham looked upon the nakedness of his father. They have misshapen lips, because Ham spoke with his lips to his brothers about the unseemly condition of his father. They have twisted curly hair, because Ham turned and twisted his head around to see the nakedness of his father. And they go about naked, because Ham did not cover the nakedness of his father. Thus he was requited, for it is the way of God to mete out punishment measure for measure. Pass.
Canaan had to suffer vicariously for his father's sin. Yet some of the punishment was inflicted upon him on his own account. For it had been Canaan who had drawn the attention of Ham to Noah's revolting condition. Ham, it appears, was but the worthy father of such a son. The last will and testament of Canaan addressed to his children read as follows: Speak not the truth, hold not yourselves aloof from theft, lead a dissolute life, hate your master with an exceeding great hate, and love one another. As Ham was made to suffer requital for his irreverence, so Shem and Japheth received a reward for the filial, deferential way in which They took a garment and laid it upon both their shoulders, and walking backward with averted faces, covered the nakedness of their father. Naked, the descendants of Ham, the Egyptians and Ethiopians, were led away captive and into exile by the king of Assyria, while the descendants of Shem, the Assyrians, even when the angel of the Lord burnt them in the camp, were not exposed, their garments remained upon their corpses unsinged. And in time to come, when Gog shall suffer his defeat, God will provide both shrouds and a place of burial for him, and all his multitude, the posterity of Japheth. Pass.
Though Shem and Japheth both showed themselves to be dutiful and deferential, yet it was Shem who deserved the larger meed of praise. He was the first to set about covering his father. Japheth joined him after the good deed had been begun. Therefore, the descendants of Shem received as their special reward the talit, the garment worn by them, while the Japhethites have only the toga. A further distinction accorded to Shem was the mention of his name in connection with God's in the blessing of Noah. Blessed be the Lord, the God of Shem, he said, though as a rule the name of God is not joined to the name of a living person, only to the name of one who has departed this life. The relation of Shem to Japheth was expressed in the blessing their father pronounced upon them. God will grant a land of beauty to Japheth, and his sons will be proselytes dwelling in the academies of Shem. At the same time, Noah conveyed by his words that the Shekinah would dwell only in the first temple, erected by Solomon, a son of Shem, and not in the second temple, the builder of which would be Cyrus, a descendant of Japheth. Noah's descendants spread abroad. When it became known to Ham that his father had cursed him, he fled ashamed, and with his family he settled in the city built by him and named Ne'etalamuk for his wife. Jealous of his brother, Japheth followed his example. He likewise built a city which he named for his wife, Adataneses. Shem was the only one of the sons of Noah who did not abandon him. In the vicinity of his father's home by the mountain, he built his city, to which he also gave his wife's name, Zedekelabab. The three cities are all near Mount Lubar, the eminence upon which the ark rested. The first lies to the south of it, the second to the west, and the third to the east. Pass.
Okay, I'm guessing that should be a good place to stop.
Yeah.
We can start discussion. So if anybody has any insights or anything to say, please speak up. All right, don't all talk at once. Anybody?
You know, the flood lasting a whole year, 12 moons and 11 days. Is that consistent, Zen, with, do you find that consistent with the solar lunar calendar?
Yeah, actually, because the lunar calendar is 10 days short of a regular solar year. It's 354 days. And so if you're going by the lunar solar calendar, then yeah, it would make sense because you'd have the 354 and then you add the 11. And that would be the intercalation of the lunar with the solar. And that's how you bring them together as well, is that because the lunar is 10 days shorter each year. In 3 years, you just add a 13th month, Adar 2, and then that brings the calendars back into play. And so to me, this is citing, that back then, which that quote from the Rabbi Perky Eleazar about the intercalation is that it was given, taught to Adam, and then passed on to Enoch and Noah, Shem, Abraham, all the way to the time of Joseph, where it was lost and then restored to Moshe and Aaron with the Exodus. And we see that in the story of Jasher with the march on Jericho as well. And so, yeah, I see it consistent with the calendar as far as the lunar and the termination of Shabbat by the appearance of the waxing crescent.
Cool. Yeah, I thought it would be a confirmation. It's amazing,
Yeah,
the things that raise eyebrows in this text, the amount of, confirmation and truths that are in it also.
right.
So,
I think it's very interesting that this text says that there is no light during the entire time of the flood, but that I remember reading it. Maybe Zenny can help me. There's another text, another extra biblical out there that talks about the Most High instructing Noah and his sons to retrieve a certain stone that it's talked about in here. But the stone was from the river Pishon. I'm trying to remember if it was from the Targum or another text that says that. But that was the only light because there's no light from sun and moon during this time.
Right. Yeah, I think it is the Targum.
Yeah, I think it's pretty interesting that the Pishon River, I believe, is the one that was known for the gold and
Right,
for
the
the
gold.
onyx
Yeah.
stone, yeah, the precious stones in that area. And the research from the God culture, you can see that the Pishon River is located encompassing the land of gold, as it describes in Genesis 2. And how it's known, and that land of gold is known for the onyx stone and for pearl. That's another name for bdellium. And it's interesting that the Philippines is the land that has produced the most gold in the world and has always been known as like the land of gold in antiquity, but it's also known for having the largest pearl discovered. I think it was maybe 10 or 12 years ago, and it was like 72 pounds. It was massive.
Wow, no way.
Yeah. Yeah, a fisherman had retrieved it and put it under his bed, not thinking that it was worth anything. I mean, it's huge. You look it up, just put largest pearl in the world, and you could see this massive thing. I mean, it's not round like a regular pearl, but it's in the shape of the clam or whatever it came out of. It's huge. I think it's maybe 3 feet wide or something. And he finally decided to take it to a museum, and everyone was just so in awe of this huge pearl. But it also makes me think of how, like the new city of Jerusalem will have the gates made of these pearls and just
Right.
how massive those will be.
Yeah.
yeah, I was thinking of the Holy Book too, because it's mentioned as a precious stone.
Right, the Book of Raziel.
Yeah.
Sapphires. Yeah.
Yeah, sapphire. Yeah. And it was brought up from the ocean. It was retrieved, was it not? Yeah.
Oh, you're talking about the Ring of Solomon?
Well, no, actually, the Holy Book. I know the Ring of
Oh,
Solomon.
that's right. Yeah, they were trying to. Yeah, the same thing happened with the Ring of Solomon too.
Right.
But yeah,
Right.
they were the demons trying to get rid of it or
Right.
something of that nature. Yeah.
So, what do you guys what do you guys want to talk about? There's so much to talk about.
Oh, I was gonna make one mention here, and that had to do with Noah, the nakedness of the father, and how it says that Ham performed an operation on him so that he couldn't bear children.
Right.
I had never heard of that before, but it's very interesting. I do know that the nakedness of the father, that in whatever way that story resulted in the birth of Canaan, and that Canaan was the usurper of the land of Shem. It covers this in chapter 6 of the Kevin Nagast, I believe.
Yeah.
Well, I
But
find
that was
it's weird.
Say again, Barry.
Just speaking of Cain, it's like and here there's this. Didn't he die at the hand of his like great grandson?
that's the story as well in the book of Jasher where he was hunting with Tubal Cain. And then also Lamech that was prophesied that Cain would be killed 7 generations later from his own bloodline. And then the curse would be that, because he killed Cain and also Tubal Cain, that it would be 70 times 7.
Because it said Cain was amongst those that perished in the flood.
Yeah, that's interesting. But again, I always fall back on, the 2 or 3 witnesses and the story of that the retribution that Enoch would be, Cain would be spared for 7 generations in the same manner that Satan, when he rebelled, would be spared for 7 ages, 7 thousands of years. And so that was the similarity in that regard. But then I do believe that as far as the story, because of the curses and the alignment with that, but yeah, it is interesting how we get different narratives. There's also in the book of the secrets of Moses, the Assatir, it says that um, Enoch had died before the flood had come. And, we everywhere else it says that he walked with God and that God took him and that he became a witness against, the fallen angels um, and the giants for their interdiction into the affairs of humanity.
That's funny. Some of this like super lines up to what the core kind of believes, and then there's other little whoopties here and there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it was disturbing there again. Where's David? David, why don't you read this? Satan and Noah make a deal. That was kind of crazy. Clark and I, we've been kind of chewing on that fat for about 3 weeks now, so I'm glad it finally got read.
Yeah, that whole narrative about the vine and Noah planting it and the vine that Adam took with him from paradise. It lines up with, I believe it's third Baruch, that whole narrative about how the grape and the wine, which we now know as spirits, and how it can just be, it was really used against Noah by Satan, trying to get Noah in any possible way he could.
Yeah, that story is also repeated in a Dead Sea Scroll narrative called the Genesis Apocryphon.
Oh, thank you. Okay. Let's take a look at that.
You're welcome.
So how would that tie
That's our
into?
second witness.
How would that like tie into with Yeshua turning water to wine? Would it tie into it at all?
I think in a way it does, and from the Genesis Apocryphon you see that in that narrative, Noah, as he's wandering, after disembarking from the ark, he does the sacrifice, offers up his prayers, and on the same altar, that that Adam had built for Cain and Abel when they were 13 years old. But anyways, and so he comes across the vine and he recognizes it as the fruit from which Adam and Eve had fallen and had been banished, removed from paradise. And so he prays and asks the Most High about it, and the Most High gives him the authority to plant it. He says that even though it had caused the fall, that it would still be medicine, and that as long as it was used in moderation, that it would be beneficial to humanity. But then there, is the story of the monkey and the lion and all that incorporated in it, and how as long as people didn't indulge or drink in excess, that it could be of a benefit. And so the story of the water and the wine, I think, it also tells us in the scriptures too that wine in small amounts in moderation would be uh, medicine and could be helpful. Um, but as far as Christ converting that, I mean, it just shows that he has the power to transform, to manifest, to intend anything that he wishes, which is just further confirmation that he is God in flesh.
It almost seems like, normally whatever Father puts down as laws and ways, they take and flip it and make it bad. It's almost like he did the opposite, where something that Hasatan made as to trip up people, this wine, then
Right,
Father
right.
can put into something good from water to wine from his hands is different.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's just a thought.
Yeah.
No, I think you're right. I think it's the same thing we see today, and that is Zen, you say it all the time. They're usurpers. And
Right.
so, and they usurp everything. They don't create, right?
Right.
They stir and cause chaos. And God is the creator and disseminator of division, right? But they
Yep.
use it for evil agency. That on page 166, it's talking about Noah leaving the ark, and in the middle there, Noah gets out and he sees the devastation, and he cries out to God, you're merciful. You should have had mercy upon all your creatures. And I just thought the narrative was so interesting. God calls him the foolish shepherd. He says, you foolish shepherd. And then you go down a few sentences, He spoke to him, telling him all these things in advance, that thou mightest entreat mercy for the earth. But you didn't concern yourself about the ruin, And I just kind of camped out on that. And it's like God has a heart of reconciliation beyond what we can even imagine. And so I think that there's a scripture that's always misquoted. We hear it all the time, right? And when a soldier gives his life, or we hear it at a funeral, no greater man hath any love than, have greater love than one who lays down his life. Well, to me, that's only true of one person,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
It's only true of Christ. No one has greater love than him.
That's true.
Anyway,
I
Yeah.
agree. I agree. I noticed one thing that's missing from this text. I'm not sure if it comes later on, but there was a comment in the chat about wondering, because I think all of us here that are reading anyway are aware that seeing the nakedness of his father meant he had intercourse with his mother, Noah's wife. And it wasn't really mentioned in here. So I was wondering if
Right.
maybe it comes up later, but it's kind of widely known that that's what that means.
Yeah, and in the Targum, it makes it even more clear, because it tells us that the result of that is that Canaan was born, and that he was the fourth son of Ham. And that because of the results of that as well. And in the Targum, it also says that Noah woke up and he was told within a dream as to what Ham had done with his wife, Nama, and that the result of that would be that Canaan would be born. And that's why he cursed Canaan to be a servant to Shem, which we see that that was fulfilled in Joshua 10 when the people, they acted as if they were from a faraway place, and the Hivites, I believe, and then they tricked the princes of Israel and Joshua to accept them as allies, and they spared them, and they became, the hewers of the wood, and they would serve the Levites and the priesthood as servants. But then we know that they also usurped the Levitical priesthood too, and the right of the priesthood, and the order of the ancients, and they became the ones that conspired against Messiah and murdered him.
Yeah, that makes sense. Right.
And I also
Yeah.
find it interesting, just to throw in on the side about the wine we're learning and where it's coming from, and how that one priesthood order, when you take the vow, you don't drink wine anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
And then
is that the Nazarite vow you're talking
Yeah.
about?
yeah,
Like
right,
Samson?
yeah. And then Yeshua says he wasn't going to drink wine again until we reunite again.
Right. My son and I have taken that vow too.
Oh,
Amen, son. I as well.
Amen. Amen.
oh.
So,
So we don't drink wine either.
okay. On the
But you can't give
Passover.
up hope on the Lord's lettuce now.
What were you saying, Clark?
Oh, if you're not tasting wine, do you drink it on night of Passover, or do you guys just have like grape juice or?
Just grape juice. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah,
Mm.
that's a good thing, I think.
I think so as well. I mean, if he can make the vow, why can't I?
Right. And, you know, there's so much uh, that is involved. Um, we are born, I'll say it, in this reptilian flesh, and we have no choice, right? But he is really the only one who had free will. He had a choice.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's all quite interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody else
Sorry.
have anything?
Uh, um, there's a lot to bring out, really. There's just not enough time
Right.
left to talk about,
Well, just remember, Hebrew Hawaiian, it's their Sabbath weekend, so.
Right. Well, something else that was interesting when you go back to I think I mentioned it last time that there were two specific animals that were not being allowed on the ark because they had to come in by pairs, and it was falsehood. He tried to get on alone, and Noah said, "No, you." This page 162. Two creatures of a most peculiar kind also found refuge in the ark. Among the beings that came to Noah, there was falsehood asking for shelter. and he was denied admission because he had no companion. And Noah was taken only in pairs. So Falsehood went off to seek a partner and he met misfortune. So here you have falsehood and misfortune. And they follow each other, right? They followed Adam and Eve in the garden, and they follow this narrative as well. Even the narrative of, Noah planting the vineyard and getting drunk and what happens at the end. Um, Misfortune, you know, falsehood and misfortune. Pretty interesting if you, because they're connected. There's a lot in there.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I just thought I'd.
No, there
Uh,
is a lot.
Yes,
It's hard
agreed.
because you'll read
How
one
did
thing.
Noah not know that was Satan? Yes.
Yeah, and why would he knows what happened in the garden? I don't understand why he would go into business with Hasatan.
Right?
right. So obviously, Satan had to have disguised himself, right?
Mm-hmm.
He had to have come in disguise. It's like, we know our neighborhoods pretty much. I know when
Yeah, well, what
someone.
business is to be had after the flood? There's nowhere. What are you gonna sell to the 8 people?
Well,
Yeah,
Misfortune,
well, some
right?
time had passed, we can assume, but still, he had to have disguised himself. And also, Noah had made sacrifices to God of clean animals, so he knew what was clean, what was acceptable. And this business partner that he enters in business with is slaughtering unclean. There's a lamb in there, and he starts with the lamb, but a pig and a monkey, um, and a lion, and then the blood is poured in the ground. How can Noah not know? How can
that
he
that's
not know of that?
unacceptable.
But then the next paragraph says, "This deterred Noah no more than did the example of Adam." So it's a red flag. And Noah blew right past 3 or 4 red flags that, we can see that think are red flags. Um, like, first of all, he's a stranger. Second of all, he's asking about the qualities of the wine, but then yet he's imbuing certain qualities in it. And these are qualities of unclean creatures. And so this in turn, I believe, ties to falsehood and misfortune, which is why I was mentioning that.
I noticed
Ah,
Yeah, I noticed that too, Clark. I like it how, as you said, uses unclean animals, and just the monkey symbology. It's so backwards how they're teaching in schools
Right,
came from monkeys when
right.
actually, there's this account, and then there's also the one about what happened at the Tower of Babel. That the Most High turned like an entire group of people into monkeys because
That's
of,
right.
right?
Right.
And I
Uh-huh.
just, it's so unbelievable of all the symbology with these animals in here.
Yeah, there's really, to me, there's so much truth embedded in these stories. It's there to mine. Um, just really a lot of it. And Noah's undeterred. It didn't deter him, you know. And um, whatever you guys want to talk about, really. I don't want to skip it. There's so much to talk about.
Well, Sherry mentioned in the chat, and I was looking at the statement also about about Canaan or about Canaan, and it's interesting that when you read all the testaments of the patriarchs and prophets, they always have all of this really good advice for their offspring, their grandchildren, great grandchildren, on their deathbed. And it says here, the last will and testament of Canaan addressed to his children says, "Speak not the truth." In other words, lie all the time. Hold not yourselves aloof from theft. In other words, go and steal whatever you can. Lead a dissolute life. I'm not exactly sure what dissolute means, but it's something pretty bad. Hate your master with an exceeding great hate and love one another. Like, what kind of testament is that? That's like, I've never heard such a horrible testament. But of course, it's coming from Canaan, the cursed child.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah. We even see that in the raven, the words of the raven, right before Noah left the ark. Uh, Thy master hates me, right? When he desired to dispatch the raven, that's page 165 at the top. The Lord, thy master, hates me, and thou dost hate me too, right? Um, what we see coming from the mouth of the raven is jealousy, envy, selfishness. It's not fair. My feelings are hurt. Self righteousness, false accusations. He's just spewing all of it. And then when Noah leaves him out to run an errand, he had no success. Why? Because he didn't execute the orders Noah gave him. He sat down to please himself and fill his own stomach. It's just, there's a lot of applicable truth in these stories.
I agree.
And even the last sentence of that section before it says Noah leaves the ark, I thought this was really interesting. The dove went out, right? Upon the dove was sent out toward evening, she returned with an olive leaf in her bill, for the Holy Land had not been ravaged, right? And she plucked it. She said to God, O Lord of the world, let my food be as bitter as the olive, but do thou give it to me from thy hand, rather than it should be sweet, and I be delivered into the power of men. That's a pretty interesting statement, isn't it?
Yeah, and what does it mean by being delivered into the power of man?
Good question. Good. Well, it's like, as I thought about it, just on the surface, the raven uh, and the raven worshippers are compared with like the eaters of the dead, right? And evil agency and evil inclination. It works, you know,
Yes.
against our flesh and our spirit. And it's very political. It's like, what are we promised?
Yeah.
Right? The mask is your salvation.
I
The Kool-Aid is your salvation, right?
Mhm.
But we know it's our death. And
Yeah.
and the way that's narrow is the way that's broad, my opinion, is smooth. It's a smooth party, right? Hey, ignorance is bliss, right? Ignorance is bliss. YOLO, babe. Go for it. Grab the brass ring. It's all about you. You deserve a break today. Have it your way. Yada, yada, yada. Right?
Yeah. I think it's interesting too. You bring up the raven, Clark, because it reminds me of the animal farm parable type of thing at the end or near the end of the book of First Enoch in chapter 89. The ravens are in this symbology of there's just a whole bunch of different animals, and it kind of is a prophecy given to Enoch that from the beginning of the world all the way up through Judgment Day, and it talks about the ravens that are attacking the sheep. And in this particular chapter, the ravens are resembling the spiritual leadership or the religious leadership. I guess I should say. So starting with like the Pharisees, they're depicted as ravens, and I just think it's interesting that you're bringing up all this other um, symbology that has to do with ravens
Yeah.
from the text we're reading now.
Yeah. And forgive me, I can't remember if it was Abraham or Ezra, but it was the raven that he met, right? When he went
Yeah,
up into the
yeah,
heavens.
yeah. Apocalypse of Abraham, I believe.
Right? Yeah. Just a lot of applicable truth and worth really, you know, just applying the same modes of interpretation we would to anything, really, because if they're usurpers, which we know they are, right? Everyone likes to go to the movies. Why? Because there's a subplot within the plot and a plot within the subplot. Well, it's the same thing with the truth and how God hides the truth, and He wants us to knock. He wants us to seek. He wants us to find the breadcrumbs, right? He created our ability to feel hunger and thirst, right?
Mhm.
And so I think it's all connected. Didn't mean to take it off track, but manipulation, coercion, deceit, falsehood, empty promises, fraud, versus, that's like all guile. It's guile, right?
Mhm.
Where straightforward honor, trust, faithfulness. This brings up another um, interesting point that I want to see if I can hit here real fast. Where Noah was in the ark, and uh, shoot, where is it? It was a time of incontinence where the sexes were separate because it was said during a time of public upheaval that it's best to separate yourselves. Right here, page 167, middle. It says here, during their sojourn in the ark, the two sexes of men and animals alike had lived apart from each other, because while a public calamity rages, continence is becoming even to those who are left unscathed. This law of conduct had been violated by none in the ark except by Ham, the dog, and the raven. They all received punishment, right? Well, the two things that came to my mind right off the bat was when Eve gives her testimony about what happened in the garden, she mentions that. She mentions that the sexes in paradise were separate. and Adam was in charge of the male and she was in charge of the female. And also, what came to my mind was in other words, I mentioned that because the subplot, what's going on is that calamity's gonna rage, even in paradise, right? Anyway, the second thing that came to my mind was Uzziah, the second in command of David. He was invited home at the peak of war. And it was a pretext, David was using. Uzziah, come on, take a break, man. Take a break. Go lay down with your wife. We know he was trying to cover up their sin, but Uzziah was, that's his name, right? I think that's his name.
Yeah, it is.
He slept on the palace steps, not with his wife. So he was following, honor, trust, and truthfulness. Interesting stuff, right?
Mhm.
It's always so much fun to review all this with everybody. Unfortunately, I need to get going. I'm on painting duty upstairs. I don't know if you guys can hear the hammering in the background, but I hate to leave because it's so much fun to talk about the text with you guys. But we will see you sometime during this week at for sure Wednesday. Then we'll be having a good conversation there Wednesday, I believe. And big shaloha to everyone. And thank you for all your prayers. Thanks to everyone in the chat who's lifting up Tammy in prayer. Really appreciate that. And yeah, it's a great read tonight.
Oh,
Yeah.
hey, Lisa, can you join on Thursday? Because Wednesday, God Culture is coming on, Anthony.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. Thursday's great. I'm sorry. I need to look at the calendar again.
Okay.
Thursday works. Yeah. Thank you so much, then.
Yep, no problem.
Are you guys going to dive back into the Book of Giants?
Yeah, at some point,
That was pretty off the chain. I was really appreciate that.
Yeah. Thank you, brother.
Yeah.
So
I
we'll
think
look forward to Thursday, and then also Wednesday is going to be awesome. I always love it when you have your conversations with Tim from God Culture. It's so cool. Then you guys have a lot to talk about.
Yeah.
All right,
So Tim's coming on again on Wednesday.
Wednesday. Okay.
Okay, I need to
I think
talk to Anthony then. Okay, because I didn't even check the calendar. So.
Oh, I need to look at the calendar too. Wait, let me
I'll make sure yeah.
Let me take a peek really quick before I say I sign off here.
Right on.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. It looks like no, it says Wednesday is us, but I'm not sure. And then the 29th is with Brett Thomas,
Okay, all right.
I believe. Yeah. So
Okay.
but if you have
I'll
somebody
let
else,
you know exactly for sure what's
yeah.
going on.
Okay, sounds great, Zen. Shalom.
All right.
Have a wonderful
If anything,
weekend.
you can just come on with us on Wednesday too. So that would be fun.
Okay. All right. I'll just yeah. I'll wait to hear from you, Zen, so we can get.
Okay. Yeah, I'll let you know.
Okay. Thank you so much.
All right. Have a great show. Goodbye.
Okay. You too. Blessings.
Bye.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night. Good night. All. Shalom.
Yeah. Everybody, good night. Have a blessed week.
Be
Okay.
blessed. All. Shalom.
Thank you everybody for joining us for this video and this broadcast. We appreciate all of you and thank you for your patronage. Please do like and subscribe and share with your friends. God bless all of you in your seeking.